Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, January 27th, and this is another Facebook Live Friday by myself, Marcel Brown. So let's get started. The week basically got going with a computer glitch by United Airlines that grounded a lot of their domestic flights. And luckily, it was only a couple hour glitch, so it seemed, but it definitely affected a lot of people on a very busy travel day. So computers causing glitches are nothing new. In this case, United actually had several problems a couple of years ago with some of their computer systems when they integrated with Continental Airlines, I think. So it was a probably something United Airlines has suffered through before, and not good for them for travelers that remembered their issues a few years back. But it's just an example of when systems get complex, the more opportunity there is for errors, and there's probably no more complex a system than an airline's computer system. So, the question is why couldn't they have systems that were redundant to avoid things like this? And that's maybe something they should definitely take a look at as far as figuring out ways. And this is something every company should look at, is, and even people in general, is when you're dependent on computer systems, what are your fallback, fail safe plans? What happens when one system may not work? What type of redundancies do you have in place so that if something happens, what do you do? What can you do to continue running or not be in a situation where you're in a lot of trouble because something isn't working while you're trying to get it back up and running? So a little lesson for you there. Speaking of technology failures, Samsung on Sunday, or depending on where in the world you were, is Monday morning in Korea, but Sunday evening here in the United States, they detailed why they had their infamous burning batteries issues last fall with the Galaxy Note 7. And bottom line was it's just some manufacturing defects for simplicity's sake, but it was two different issues because the first round of batteries had a flaw, and then when they tried to replace it with a different type of battery that had a different flaw, and ironically they both caused burning phones, or batteries to burn, which then burning phones. So that was the big news last fall. And for the good thing about Samsung here is that they did go into very much detail. They seemingly laid all the cards out on the table for everyone to see, and it was a very good explanation, and they took blame for it. Although they, ironically, they said that the batteries burned, not the phone. And it's like, well, who cares what it was? It's still your phones were on fire. So, so they that was about their only little flaw there, is that they took responsibility at the same time, saying it wasn't the phones. Um, the I think the moral of the story here, though, is this is a very real manifestation of a design philosophy, or a manufacturing philosophy, or whatever corporate philosophy of Samsung that's been evident to me for a few years now, is that they care less about the overall user experience and the attention to detail in making a device, as compared to a company like Apple that takes great pride in making the device very user friendly, but also taking the time to do testing and that sort of thing to make sure they're safe. Certainly, no company's perfect, and Apple's not perfect, and no company's perfect, and you're going to have problems like this. But it's been Samsung's culture, not just in their technology, but some other aspects of the way they do business, in that they're trying to get things to market quickly. They're always trying to push the envelope in ways that normally you would say a technology company pushing the envelope is great, but when they're pushing the envelope as far as just trying to get the biggest and baddest tech specs out, not so much caring about whether it's the right thing to do, it's the best user experience, but just that they can claim that they're going to be the biggest and fastest and all this sort of stuff. Eventually, something like this is going to happen. They specifically said rushed manufacturing was one of the reasons that this slipped through their quality control process. So, like I said, it's almost karmic in a way that this was a result of the way Samsung does business. Speaking of Apple, they rolled out a bunch of updates this week for all their devices: iOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS. All the devices got updates on Monday or Tuesday, and they were all basically bug and security patches, which then all the news sites were basically saying that the new iOS 10.3 will be coming out relatively soon. That will be more of a feature update. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to have a few neat little features coming soon to improve your devices. And then obviously the macOS is also getting updates as well. And then going back to batteries, one of the things, and ironically this week with the Samsung announcements, HP is recalling over 100,000 batteries from their lines of laptops that were produced between roughly 2013 and 2016. So if you have an HP laptop, definitely check the announcements to make sure that either your laptop is safe or that it contains one of the batteries that is being recalled. Laptop batteries are bigger than phone batteries, so it could be a possibly bigger fire if you have one of the affected batteries. I just read an article this morning. It was actually relatively old news, though, that some Best Buy Geek Squad employees were actually working as FBI informants, and they were basically getting a $500 bounty for any tips that they gave the FBI if they found materials on a laptop such as child pornography or other things, I guess illegal things. And Best Buy has stated that it's not a company policy to do that, and it's actions by individuals. But it really brings up the point that if you are hiring someone to do technology work for you, really the most important thing, probably the most important thing, is your trust factor with the person you're hiring, because you do have a lot of sensitive data on your computer, and whether it's illegal or just financial or personal data you don't want other people to know about, when you store all your life basically on your technology, if you work with people to help you with that technology, you have to trust them. If you can't trust them, it really doesn't matter how skilled or how much experience they have. If they can't pass that basic trust test, then you're putting yourself at risk with your data and your livelihood if you run a business. So be careful who you hire. And when you go to a place like Best Buy Geek Squad, you don't know for sure that you're going to get the same person more often than not. And if you hire, say, a technology firm, my advice is to try to somehow, if you're hiring a firm that has a lot of employees, are there ways to say, I want to work with the same people over and over, not the random new hire that might show up that week and that sort of thing. So be careful with your technology and your data, and try to hire trusted people. Last thing I want to talk about is I've had a few clients this week get hit by the Gmail phishing scam that's been going around here recently. Basically what's happening is a user will get a phishing email, which is, you should know by now, a phishing email is basically a fake email that tries to get you to go to a website or do something to give up your user account information. So basically a phishing email works as you get the email and says, here's a document or here's a link you need to go to, something along those lines. You click the link, it goes to a website that looks very much like a real website, but it's asking you to log in to access whatever it is you need. So most people are like, oh, I'll log in because I want to get whatever I need here. Well, it's not a real login, and what's happening is when you put your username and password in there, it's just being collected by the phishing scammers, and then they'll turn around and use that information to hack into your account, and do things like that. In this case, with the Gmail phishing scam, it's a perpetual scam. So what happens is a Gmail user will get the scam. They'll log in to the phishing site, giving up their account information. Then the scammers will then use that account information to use that Gmail account to send more emails. So it's almost kind of like a viral effect here. And I had a few clients get hit by it. And one for sure I could confirm was they got a phishing email, which then they got themselves hacked into. The other client, I couldn't tell for sure what has happened, but it's likely that that was the case. So really it just comes down to good practices. Obviously use a strong password, but even if you use a strong password and you get caught by a phishing scam, it doesn't matter how strong the password is because you're literally giving it away. So number one rule is obviously be careful of what you click on and what you enter. And if anything feels suspicious, if it doesn't seem right, then hesitate. Don't enter your password in a place you don't know where it's at. But the other thing that you can do is with most services now, it's becoming a popular trend, obviously, is something called either two-factor or two-step authentication, which Gmail definitely does support, and I've enabled it now on some clients and tested it myself. And basically what happens is the way it works, and some of you probably used these type of systems before, is when you go to a website or any sort of account and log in with your username and password, you not only have to give the password, but then you must also give a code that is sent to like your phone, or if some people that work in corporate environment, a special like key fob or something that has a code that rotates. Those are the type of things that two-step authentication requires. So basically you got to give the password, and then you also have to give a code that only you should be getting because it's sending it to your phone or some device that only you should have possession of. So these systems are very effective at preventing account breaches, because even if you do give up your password or someone hacks your password or guesses your password, they're not able to log into your account, because when they attempt to log into your account, they're going to be stopped by the two-step, or the second step of the authentication, because they're not going to have your phone or your device or whatever to get that code that's required for login. So most of the time the way this works as well is that once you log in with a certain device, say your phone or your computer, then it can become a trusted device so that you don't have to repeatedly give it that second step verification, so it's not quite as cumbersome as some older systems where you must always give that second step. So I highly recommend that you look into two-step authentication or verification, as it's called by Gmail, and turn that on if you are at all concerned about your account security, whether it's Gmail or other types of systems. I know Apple iCloud also has a two-step authentication or verification, and lots of other systems have that type of system. So it is very effective at stopping password breaches, since you must have that second step and only you should have it. So anyway, that's about it for the week. Certainly if you have any questions, I'm always happy to take them, so send me an email or get on my website and send me a contact message there. Again, this is Marcel Brown, most trusted name in technology, and I will see you next week.